I got big news for the Ripple and XRP ecosystem as Ripple spends $1.25 billion buying a company that helps them with, well, I'll share it with you. We're also going to talk XRP price, along with almost 25% of BTC holders in the red. Saylor says he may have to sell BTC to keep the lights on.
I say lots of naughty things, so here's your warning.
That's right. Ripple bought the dip, spending $1.25 billion. Were you spending money over the weekend? But before we get into the crypto news, your comments come first. Yes, because you, the viewer, matter most. Our City Stroll says, Yo, Klaus, is the best crypto channel on the tube. The truth hurts, but knowledge is the true hopium. I completely agree, kind sir. Michael O'Donnell says, bought 2,000 more HBAR at 14 cents. Everyone needs to diversify. Crypto, metals, cash. Don't pile everything into one asset. One asset dumps, you have backup. That's why when we have strategic reserve talk, we hope that it's a whole basket and not just one asset. SWH5619 says, finally, someone is saying what I've been thinking regarding the macros of the economy. It was actually pretty obvious early on, but I think a lot of us were drunk with gains. Drunk with the election hopium. Let's be real here. When the election juice happened in November and the market just started roaring, a lot of people put macros to the side because we were like, oh, how fast are we going to get regs? Or are we going to get strategic reserves? All that kind of fun stuff. We got a little green up on the screen, but we're still way, way down. And CPI data is coming April 10th, 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time. We're going to have a live stream, so hit that notification bell so you don't miss out. CPI is good. We're going to stay in the green. CPI is bad. You got a sale on aisle 5, baby. Bitcoin's hitting at 80,057 ETH, 1576 XRP at 195. BNB is at 564. Sol at 110. While XLM's at 23.78 is at 60 cents. Doge 15.3. HBAR 16.4 and Pi. Pile of shit still. Nearly 25% of all BTC is now underwater. We're talking about the holders of BTC. And I want you to think about this, right? Because remember, almost like 99% of BTC holders were in the green not too long ago, and now in the red. At the time of writing, nearly 5 million BTC are being held at a loss, representing almost a quarter of the total supply. Data retrieved by Finbold for market intelligence platform CryptoQuant reveals on April 8th, that's today, breaking news, hit that subscribe button, that 24% of the digital asset supply is currently into red. Put it into perspective, that percentage equates to a staggering 4.9, almost 5 million BTC of the total 21 million supply. So BTC is feeling the effects from macros, feeling the effects from the tariff wars and all that. And let's be real here, BTC, along with the rest of the market, is going to be doing what on April 10th? They're going to be watching the CPI data. It's Wednesday. All right, I'm bringing this up because yesterday Saylor dropped a bombshell on the market. Number one, he didn't buy the dip. No, he didn't. Number two, he published, well, his company published an 8K. All right, and if you don't know what that is, that's an update given to the SEC. On page 15 of this, yes, I did the work for you, Saylor says, accordingly, we may be required to take actions to pay expenses, such as selling Bitcoin or using proceeds from equity or debt financing in order to keep things running. Yeah, we may be unable to adjust spending quickly enough to offset any unexpected shortfall in our cash flow. Basically saying, yo, we've spent all our money, but we got bills due, so we may have to sell BTC to keep the lights on. This is messed up because remember, Saylor's behind the whole move of, yo, buy no matter what. Mortgage your house. Sell your kids. Make your wife do an OF account so you can buy BTC. And then all of a sudden, he's like, yeah, I might have to sell some BTC. This is wild. This is changing fast. That's why I brought up the article about a quarter of the BTC supply being in the red. Now, Ripple, we know they have a whole bunch of money. First things first, Brad Garlinghouse came out over the weekend and was like, yo, no IPO for Ripple. That's actually good because an IPO is just a way of raising money. This allows Ripple to maintain control without giving control to shareholders. Here's why that's important. Microsoft wanted to add BTC to their strategic reserve. Because Microsoft's a public company, the shareholders voted no on that. So yeah, once you go IPO, you give up some of that control to shareholders. But Ripple instead is like, yo, girlfriend, we're buying. We're buying a lot. We've got big bags, so we're buying. Ripple said Tuesday, hey, that's today, that it has agreed to acquire Hidden Road for $1.25 billion, making the crypto firm's largest acquisition to date and one of the biggest deals. Founded in 2018, Hidden Road provides clearing, financing, and prime brokerage services across multiple asset classes, including foreign exchanges, digital assets, derivatives, swaps, and fixed income. The firm currently clears over $3 trillion annually for more than 300 institutional clients, including hedge funds, like a clearinghouse is a good way of putting it for institutional players. We've seen Ripple move way more institutional custody stuff, now institutional clearing. They're getting really big into what I like to refer to as the picks and shovels, right? Think of a gold rush, okay? Gold rush. A lot of people out there are like, yo, I'm going to be rich mining gold. What Ripple is saying, nah, we're not going to get rich mining gold. We're going to get rich selling you the picks and shovels and maps so that you can take the risk to mine gold. We will make our profits on the peripherals. This move positions RLUSD as the first stablecoin to support efficient cross-margining between digital assets and traditional finance markets. As part of the partnership, Hidden Road will shift its post-trade operations to XRPL. Well, that's good for the ecosystem. Let's keep learning. Hidden Road is already a major player, handling $3 trillion, 300 institutions. With Ripple's backing, it is now set to scale rapidly and become one of the world's largest non-bank prime brokers. Oh, in reaction to this development, Brad Garlinghouse noted that the crypto industry is entering a new phase. For the first time, the U.S. market is truly open to digital assets because of previous regulatory uncertainty. They also said no IPO. Now, did this help out the price of XRP? No, not directly. Overall, we've seen a little bit of a mini rebound in the market. Volume has come down a bit from yesterday's craziness, but we're still way high at $9 billion. In terms of the Korean won pairing compared to Binance, we got really high. And the higher we got with that pairing with the Korean won to XRP here, right here on number 5 on Upbit compared to Binance's number 1, you could see the bottoming leveling out from there. But it still wasn't as big as the discrepancy that we saw with Sunday Bloody Sunday. And with CPI data up, you already saw those margins going back on down. So now we're looking at this going, okay. We're happy. We're above the lows where we were, but we didn't get above $2, so we're missing that $2 support. Going to the 15-minute candlestick, this is what I want to share with you. It's this candlestick right here on the 7th. This one caught my attention. It was a high at 201. From that point, no, we didn't get there. We did not get to another $2 candlestick from that point. So the market said clear as day, right now, $2, not going any higher. We need to see what the macros say. Yeah, this is macros, tariff battles versus optimism of regs and so forth. So right now you're looking at what? Bottom action in the 160s for XRP that happened on the 7th. We got rejected at $2. Now we're going to trade a little bit of sideways action until CPI data comes out. Zooming out, you're looking at this going, okay, there's some definite volatility here. And let me do this. Let me make this to the 1 day on the old chart here. There's a lot of volatility to this. But the problem that a lot of us are noticing is you see these lows here? They're getting lower and lower. One of the first lows that we experienced testing-wise for XRP was December 10th. We got to a low of 190. We then popped right back up. Then you had Sunday Bloody Sunday. We got to $1.77. About a month later, another low of 161. So our lows have been getting lower. And as you can see, it's the same thing with the highs. The highs have been getting lower. That is not a good trajectory. Am I glad that we were able to stay above $1.50? Yeah, but come on, let's be real here. We want to stay above $2 and start touching that $3 mark. But we have good news from Ripple as they have cash. They also have regulatory clarity in order for them to be buying. Mergers and acquisitions are a good sign. That means players have cash and players think that the bottom or darn near the bottom has been priced in. But right now for XRP, the market's going to be doing its thing until we get CPI data. Volume, yes, is healthy, so these exchanges are making money. And you out there are going, yo, 195? I can snipe cheaper than that to DCA. I don't have to chase high XRP because guess what? We've seen now that for a couple days, you've been able to buy sub $2 XRP without even snipe. Okay, so we got some good ecosystem news with Ripple and RLUSD as they did a little bit of shopping over the weekend and spent $1.25 billion. Holy crap. But again, it's geared towards institutions and it's geared towards clearing, which really doesn't help us out. Again, it helps Ripple out as a company, but not so much XRP native token holders. Now, speaking of native asset holders, 25% of BTC holders are in the red. Saylor didn't buy during this dip. He ain't that far away. I think he's about $13,000 away from breaking even right now because he bought a ton of BTC above 100,000. So his most recent purchases are deep in the red. I'm going to have that video, a deeper dive on that, linked at the end of this because I share some stats with you that'll open your eyes regarding the whole situation. Now, in terms of what's going on, like with macros, tariffs, regs, and all that kind of stuff, look, regs aren't happening fast enough. And right now, the regs that they're working in the House and the Senate on are all about stables. We're not even touching crypto yet. We're just talking about stables. So we've got that, and that's taken longer than people expected. Strategic reserve news, that's taking way longer than people expected. In terms of SEC confirmation, way longer than expected. So that Trump election hopium pump that happened from November on, you could tell it's starting to like wear away. Players out there are like, I don't know. And you could see it with the charts, right? The highs are getting lower and the lows are getting lower because the players out there, people like you and I are going, okay. That's a lot of talk, girlfriend, but now you need to start doing some of that action. Yeah, that's where we're at right now. Now, in terms of price, look, you want to snipe? You don't really need to try that hard because we've got time until CPI data happens. And then if CPI data is bad, you'll be able to buy low prices for a while. If CPI data is good, okay, that changes things. That could pump us back up to XRP $2 floor support. So, we got to see what happens with CPI data. I'm going to be having a live stream covering that. So as soon as the data breaks, you're going to be one of the first to know. Why? Because I do it for the fans. Choo choo, bitches.